Ladies, let me tell you something powerful today. In a world that glorifies hustle, noise, and chaos, there is a quiet force that is often overlooked, a power so magnetic, so mysterious, that when you embrace it, you become completely, utterly irresistible. And that power, my friends, is stillness. Yes, stillness, that unshakable calm, that quiet confidence, that deep, unwavering energy that doesn't need to shout to be heard, doesn't need to chase to be desired. It's the art of holding your center while the world spins around you, and once you master it, you stop chasing attention and start commanding respect. Let me take you back to my early days. When I first entered the world of beauty pageants and cinema, everything felt like a whirlwind. There was pressure to talk, to impress, to constantly do. But I realized quickly that the most powerful women in any room weren't the loudest. They were the calmest, they had presence, they owned their silence. Their gaze didn't scream, it whispered, "I know who I am." And everyone leaned in to listen. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. It means power under control. It means knowing your worth so deeply that you don't need to prove it to anyone. It's the way a lioness walks, not because she's in a rush to conquer, but because she already knows she reigns. That's the energy that makes people obsessed with you, not because you begged for their attention, but because you carried yourself like a woman who doesn't need it. Think about the women you admire, the ones who turn heads without even trying. It's not always their beauty, it's their energy, their ability to hold eye contact, to listen, to pause before speaking, to smile, not out of nervousness, but out of pure composure. That is what makes them unforgettable. When you practice stillness, you begin to attract, not chase. The right people, opportunities, and relationships are drawn to you like gravity. You create mystery, elegance, and depth. You stop giving away your energy cheaply and start protecting your peace like it's gold, because it is. Ladies, stillness is not weakness. It is your secret weapon. It is the voice that doesn't need volume. It is the seduction that doesn't require words. It is the power that doesn't flex, but dominates. So take a breath, own your silence, be unshakable, and watch the world turn its head in awe. Because stillness, my queen, is what makes you irresistible. In a world that's constantly rushing, posting, talking, and chasing, we forget that sometimes the most powerful energy doesn't come from movement. It comes from stillness. Stillness is not just the absence of noise or action. It's the presence of calm certainty. It's the quiet magnetism that says, I don't need to shout. I am the moment. There's something deeply attractive about a person who doesn't feel the need to prove themselves, to over-explain, or to dominate every conversation. Stillness is a magnetic force because it invites curiosity. It makes others lean in, wonder more, and feel your presence without you needing to demand it. When you walk into a room and you are still, not because you're unsure, but because you're fully grounded, you shift the atmosphere. People feel it, even if they can't name it. There is mystery in stillness. It creates space for people to notice you, to be intrigued by you. It tells them you're not seeking validation because you already carry it within. That kind of presence is powerful. It's the difference between someone who chases attention and someone who effortlessly commands it. Many people associate attraction with flashiness, loud voices, bold gestures, constant movement. But over time, those things fade. What remains is the energy that draws people in without force. Think of a calm lake versus a crashing wave. The lake invites reflection, peace, and curiosity. The wave is loud, but after the crash it recedes. Stillness is lasting. It leaves an impression that lingers long after you've left the room. You become magnetic when you're comfortable in silence, when you don't rush to fill the air with words just to feel heard. When your eyes hold steady and your smile is subtle but confident, that's when people pay attention. That's when you become unforgettable, not because of what you said or did, but because of who you were in the stillness. It's rare, and what's rare is irresistible. Stillness is not about doing less. It's about being more aware, more present, more aligned with your inner power. When you embrace this kind of stillness, you begin to exude a quiet confidence that doesn't scream but echoes. People want to be around that energy. They are drawn to it because it's not trying to impress, it just is, and that, in its purest form, is magnetic. Confidence isn't always about walking into a room with your head high and voice loud. Real confidence speaks in the quiet moments. It's found in the pauses between words, in the calm breath before a response, in the way someone holds themselves without needing to be seen. When a woman is truly confident, she doesn't need to announce it. Her energy does all the talking. It's that kind of quiet, controlled strength that makes people stop and take notice. You don't have to dominate a conversation to make an impression. Sometimes the way you listen, the way you stand, the way you calmly observe says more than any speech ever could. This kind of confidence is deeply rooted. It isn't reactive or impulsive. It doesn't feel the need to fill silence with chatter or interrupt others to feel important. It waits, it holds space, it trusts its own value. And when someone carries that kind of presence, it makes others naturally feel drawn to them. They want to hear what she'll say when she finally speaks. They're curious about her thoughts because she doesn't throw them around carelessly. Every word is intentional, every pause has meaning. There is a certain power and restraint that many overlook. A woman who speaks less but with intention often has more influence than one who speaks constantly. It's not about being quiet out of fear, it's about choosing your moment with precision. When your words come from stillness, they land with greater weight. People remember them not because they were loud, but because they were clear and grounded. Confidence also shines through in body language, eye contact that doesn't waver, posture that doesn't fold inwards, hands that rest without fidgeting. These things may seem small, but they speak volumes. They show that you're not seeking permission to exist. You already know you belong. And that sense of self, that grounded inner assurance, is incredibly attractive. The truth is, in a world where everyone's trying to be louder, funnier, more visible, the one who stands in quiet certainty stands out the most. People feel safe around someone who is calm. They feel respect for someone who isn't desperate to be liked. Confidence that speaks softly is the kind that penetrates deeply. It leaves a mark not through volume but through depth, and that kind of presence is what makes you not only powerful, but unforgettable. When a woman truly knows her worth, it radiates from her in everything she does, how she walks, how she speaks, how she chooses to show up in the world. She doesn't need to overcompensate or try too hard because her sense of value is not tied to anyone's approval. It lives within her, and from that place of deep self-worth comes stillness, not the stillness of hesitation or fear, but the stillness of someone who is rooted, grounded, and unmoved by external chaos. That kind of woman doesn't rush to defend herself, doesn't bend to fit into rooms she's outgrown, and doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She is whole on her own. There's a certain peace that comes from knowing who you are and what you deserve. It removes the desperation from your energy. You no longer chase love, validation, or acceptance because you already possess it within. And when that's your starting point, people sense it. You become someone others want to be around, not because you're trying to please them, but because your energy is calm, confident, and self-contained. That inner stillness becomes your power. It tells the world, I'm enough as I am. I don't need to prove it. When a woman lacks self-worth, you can feel the anxiety in her presence. She over-apologizes, she over-explains, she overextends herself, but the woman who knows her value speaks less and carries more weight. She doesn't need to be aggressive or defensive. Her stillness is her shield. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that she's already decided who she is, and she refuses to let the opinions of others shake that foundation. This kind of stillness changes how you enter relationships, how you set boundaries, how you deal with rejection. You no longer see every challenge as a threat to your identity. Instead, you handle it with grace because your identity is secure. You're not performing, you're just being, and that kind of authenticity is magnetic. It creates a gravitational pull that draws people in, not because you're trying to be irresistible, but because you're being real. Stillness rooted in self-worth is not silent suffering, it's empowered calm. It's the pause that says, I choose me. And that, in a world full of noise and insecurity, is rare. That kind of energy doesn't chase attention, it naturally attracts it. When you carry yourself with the dignity that comes from within, you become a woman who is not only respected, but deeply remembered. There's a misconception in our world that power belongs to the loudest person in the room, the one who dominates conversations, makes bold gestures, and constantly seeks the spotlight. But real power, the kind that lasts, often belongs to the one who is centered, grounded, and completely at peace with herself. A woman doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. She just needs to be present. Her energy speaks for her before she even opens her mouth. It's not in the volume of her voice, but in the calm steadiness of her presence that people feel her influence. Think about the people you've met who left a lasting impression on you. More often than not, they weren't the ones trying the hardest to be seen or heard. They were the ones who had a quiet confidence, a grounded calm that made them seem unshakable. They didn't rush to speak or overcompensate. They simply were and in being so authentically themselves, they made others feel a certain awe, a quiet respect. That is what true presence does. It doesn't shout for attention. It earns it by simply showing up fully aligned, deeply self-assured. When a woman is grounded, she's not reacting to everything around her. She chooses her responses carefully. She doesn't crumble when challenged or lose herself when others disapprove. Instead, she holds her space. She listens, she considers, and then she acts with intention. That kind of composure is rare, and because it's rare, it's powerful. People pay attention not because they're being forced to, but because they want to. They're drawn to the balance, the steadiness, the quiet strength that doesn't ask for permission. It's also important to understand that being grounded means knowing yourself well enough to stand firm when everything else is shifting. It means your confidence isn't built on how others see you. It's rooted in how you see yourself. That's what gives your energy depth. That's what makes your presence undeniable. You're not competing. You're not comparing. You're simply being, and in doing so, you rise above the noise. Powerful women don't seek attention. They carry presence. They walk into a room and without saying much, they shift the energy. It's not because they're loud. It's because they're real, they're solid, they're still. And in that stillness, they remind everyone around them that real strength doesn't need to perform. It just needs to be . There is a natural shift that happens when a woman begins to operate from a place of stillness rather than desperation. Instead of constantly trying to be seen, heard, or validated, she becomes a magnet. Stillness draws people in, while noise often pushes them away. It's not about being silent. It's about having an energy that is so secure, so calm, that it creates space for others to lean in. When you stop chasing attention, attention starts chasing you. People are naturally drawn to what feels grounded, safe, and authentic. That's the kind of presence that stillness creates. When someone is always pushing, always proving, always performing, there's a sense of restlessness that follows them. It's felt in the tone of their voice, in the way they move, in how quickly they respond. That restlessness may get temporary attention, but it rarely earns deep respect or lasting admiration. On the other hand, a woman who still carries herself with a grace that says, "I know who I am, and I don't need to rush to prove it." That alone makes people curious. It makes them want to understand her. They wonder what gives her that kind of peace, that kind of quiet control. The beauty of stillness is that it gives you power without you having to demand it. You stop trying to convince anyone of your worth, and you start embodying it. You let your presence speak before your words do. This kind of energy is attractive not just in romantic settings, but in professional and social ones as well. Leaders who are calm are respected. Friends who are centered are trusted. Women who are composed are remembered. People want to be around those who don't drain the room, but instead add a quiet strength to it. Attraction is not always loud or obvious. Some of the most irresistible people are the ones who leave you thinking about them long after they've gone, not because of what they said, but because of how they made you feel. Stillness has that effect. It lingers, it invites curiosity, it builds trust, and most importantly, it comes from a place that can't be faked. When you stop running after what's not meant for you and start resting in your own worth, you change the kind of energy you emit. You become a woman who doesn't need to chase because she attracts. You become the calm in the storm, the peace in the noise, the presence that people crave. That's what stillness does. It makes you unforgettable. There's an undeniable elegance and strength in a woman who knows the value of stillness. In a world that often mistakes loudness for power, she redefines what it means to be strong. Her strength is not about being forceful or aggressive, it's about presence, patience, and deep internal control. Stillness becomes her language, and through it, she speaks volumes. This isn't the stillness of passivity or fear. It's the kind of stillness that holds power the way the ocean does, quiet on the surface, but endlessly deep and commanding beneath. Stillness allows a woman to remain centered no matter what's happening around her. She doesn't flinch at chaos or get pulled into every emotional wave. Instead, she holds her space with grace. This level of calm composure is one of the most powerful and feminine traits a woman can cultivate. It creates an aura of mystery and mastery. She doesn't need to overshare or explain herself constantly because her energy already communicates strength, clarity, and wisdom. This kind of power makes her presence unforgettable. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to announce herself. People feel her energy. They notice her ability to pause, to listen, to choose her words with care. Her restraint becomes seductive. It invites people to come closer, to wonder what she's thinking, to admire how she holds herself. It's not an act, it's who she is. A woman who leads with stillness doesn't perform for attention. She simply exists with intention, and that alone is captivating. Stillness also gives her control, not over others, but over herself. She doesn't react impulsively. She doesn't let external drama throw her off course. She responds with wisdom and purpose. That kind of control is attractive because it shows discipline, maturity, and emotional intelligence. In every setting, whether it's love, career, or friendship, people feel safer and more drawn to someone who can remain composed and grounded. Most importantly, stillness gives her space to be authentic. In stillness, she can hear herself clearly, connect to her intuition, and act from a place of truth. She doesn't get lost in the noise of the world because her inner world is quiet and clear. That kind of clarity shines. It makes her magnetic, not through effort, but through essence. The power of stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing everything with presence and purpose. It's a soft but firm reminder that the most irresistible energy a woman can carry is the kind that doesn't chase, doesn't shout, and doesn't seek approval. It's simply asterisk is asterisk. Thank you.